transfer this feeling that you're experiencing into an actual voting behavior?
And that is really the challenge. If you can't win elections. So you have to. And one of my favorite economists, Ludwig von Mises, wrote the great book, Human Action. And in that book, he said there was room for people to write theoretically about economics, but there was also room for people to take complicated or so-called theoretical issues of economics and translate them and make them palatable to the people so they accept it in their own self-interest. And I see my role as doing that, and that is taking the issue of sound money and translating it into something palatable. And in this campaign, the money issue is getting to be a bigger and bigger issue, and people are coming up and saying, you know, Ron, I never realized our money wasn't backed by anything. You know, and so when I go to college campuses now, the loudest applause I get is when I talk about monetary policy. So I believe I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to do, is translate the issue of monetary policy in this complex Federal Reserve system that nobody, even in Washington, knows or understands or cares about, yet it's vital because it deals with our dollar. But today, they're listening because all you have to do is listen to the morning news. Today, the dollar was once again down sharply, which is a devastating bit of news for every single American, because you can't improve your standard of living when the value of your money is going down precipitously.
What do you think of the arrests of Emily and Brandon?
Pardon me?
What do you think of the arrests of Emily and Brandon? Thank you.
Well, I haven't paid enough attention to that to make much of a comment on that. That's a tax for people.
Yeah.
People who practice civil disobedience have to suffer consequences.
Sure.
And I'm a strong believer in practice of civil disobedience. I don't do it personally because, you know, I'd rather try to change the law than go to jail. But I just love what people like Lysander Spooner stood for, and Martin Luther King and Gandhi. But you take a lot of risk. But I also believe in the nonviolence that they preach too. So we have so many laws that are bad and unfair. Our drug laws are horribly unfair to inner city poor. You know how they end up in prisons where if you're white and you're rich and you live outside the city, you never go to jail. I think people, those laws should be changed. And if you practice civil disobedience, whether it's a tax code, some do it on monetary issue, civil liberties, you have to know what the consequences are. But I just think that it should be done more non-violently. I don't know enough details to know where they stood on the issues that are real important to me.
Could you comment some more on the dollar? Because some people say we need a weak dollar so we can sell goods overseas. How do you respond to that?
An absolute economic fallacy, which many university professors still teach. And they say, we're going to do better. The dollar is going down, so now we can export our products. Well, you know, if we make a product in this country, it's hardly any product that we make in manufacturing without importing some of the parts or some of the raw materials. So when the dollar goes down, all those things we import, the prices go up. And then quickly when that happens, when your dollar weakens, it only takes a month or two or three, the prices go up here. So it cancels out this effect. For a month or two, it might be advantageous, say, for the Canadians to come down here and spend some of their money. But that's just temporary. As they spend more money, labor costs are going to go up and prices are going to go up. It's an absolute economic fallacy that they've talked a lot of people into believing. Just think about it. If you have a few dollars in your pocket, how could it be an advantage to you if you have a $100 bill in your pocket that next week it's worth $95? It is a vicious, evil tax. It's an immoral act. It's unconstitutional. And it's really very bad economics. And yet so many people, professors in colleges and politicians, say, all we have to do is have a weaker dollar and it's going to solve all our problems. Complete nonsense.
Are you supporting just hard money or the gold standard?
I'd like to support freedom of choice in it, because we know that all individuals throughout all of history, for 6,000 years of history, when you have a choice in money, you always pick hard money, which is gold. And the two metals that have survived those 6,000 years have been gold and silver. I support the Constitution. The Constitution says no emitting of bills of credit, so no paper money, so our whole system is unconstitutional. It says only gold and silver can be legal tender. I believe that, but it's not legal anymore. So I would legalize the Constitution. I would allow people. Yeah, that's a strange idea, isn't it? I would allow, but to allow it to compete with paper, you got to get rid of sales taxes. If you go out and buy money, buy your gold coin, you got to pay sales taxes. Or if the value of the gold goes up, they say, oh, you have to pay capital gains tax. So we have to just legalize competition and allow people to use it. But someday, the ultimate test will be to save the currency and save the economic system, is you have to eliminate the power of a secretive central bank to create money out of thin air for the benefit of the special interests. Whether it's the military-industrial complex or the welfare system here at home, the politicians get away with almost anything because they just spend and take all the credit. Look what I'm giving you. I'm going to create jobs. We're going to sell more weapons and build all these things and fight this war. We don't have to tax you, and yet you are being taxed, and that is by them printing money. We have to stop the Federal Reserve's right to create money out of thin air to subsidize the politicians. This is a tax. It takes away the value of the money, and it doesn't take away the value of the money equally from everybody. Most of the time, it hits the poor and the middle class. In study, it's not difficult to find so many examples just in the last 100 years of how many times countries have destroyed their money, and there's an erosion of wealth from the middle class, and it's transferred to the wealthy. So you have a lot of billionaires on Wall Street today, and low middle income people, 70% believe they're either in a recession or going into a recession because they can't keep up. Although everybody has more money, but they don't have wealth. And the prosperity we have today is dependent on borrowing from foreigners. We owe $2.7 trillion to foreigners today. We can't even run to war without borrowing from the Red Chinese. And that is all coming to an end. The dollar is going down, and unless we get our house in order and start cutting back, and to me the only place we can really cut back politically is cutting back overseas expenditures. That's why I talk about foreign policy. Even though there's a lot of domestic policies, theoretically we shouldn't have. I don't attack them, I don't go after them. There's too many people dependent. Politically and in a practical way, you cut these hundreds of billions of dollars that we spend overseas, you get a stronger national defense for it, and you can take care of people who become dependent. If we don't do that, the dollar is going to continue to lose value, you're going to have a currency crisis, and there's going to be a lot of suffering in this country.
I'm afraid that's all the time we have.
Thank you.
Or maybe you're led around by somebody like that.
Deceived in thinking they were one meeting made up this
I almost got killed coming across the street just to say hello.
That's what happened to you.
Well, no, they're not golden years, it's rust, okay? What up?
Oil it up a little bit.
I hope the other guys think.
I've been optimistic for a long time on that prohibition of alcohol, and then like that. Remember, they tried it, it was a total failure and crime-ridden, and it didn't stop alcohol. And all of a sudden the country says, this is crazy. I think we're going to get to that point. I think we're approaching it right now, where somebody just did a study for me this week to find out how many people are in prison. Absolute lifetime sentences, never committed a violent act, and it's the most common cause to be in prison for life today, non-violent act. And as a physician, I just think it's a horrible problem, drug addiction. But I think it's a medical problem. We don't put alcoholics in prison. We still put, and then not only do we mistreat people who are drug addicted, we prevent people from using things that can be helped. And once you say, well, you can't have marijuana even if you're dying, what about, it then goes over into the area of prohibiting your choice on nutrition, on the good stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like everything else. Freedom does allow you to make bad choices. So whether it's what you put in your body or drugs or anything else, but you don't say we outlaw everybody's right to read literature and philosophy or religious values, because people make bad choices in those areas. But for some reason, 100 years ago, so we came to this conclusion that we can't trust people what they put in their bodies because they're all stupid, and that we have to have the government take care of us.